So let's get cracking. Let's look first at intimacy. What is intimacy? We know for certain that it is definitely defined in different ways. Most men will refer to intimacy as just plain old, good old shagging. Where a lot of women will refer to it as something that's a lot more involved in trust. It's a connection, it's a sharing of truth, it's a familiarity, it's a form of bonding. So it is kind of different to all of us. Right, so let's explore the different kinds of intimacy, because there are different kinds, and that's why people explore it differently. So let's look at the 5 different kinds of intimacy, and we'll start off with number 1. And the number 1, which would be physical intimacy, the one that most of us masculine men are familiar with, and it's a big connection for us. I'm not saying that women don't, definitely they do, but I'm talking very much on an average here. I feel that it's that for me, the physical side, as special as it is, there's a lot more to it. So let's get into it. So the physical. Now the physical intimacy basically refers to basically that which is done with our bodies and with our 5 senses, and it would be sex, kissing, cuddling, holding hands, that closeness, and that we get from using our physical body and our physical senses. That's the physical, number 1. Let's move on to number 2. We have intellectual intimacy. Now this is where we're using our minds. We're expressing our ideas, we express our philosophies and our tastes, and it's much more of a mental connection. So that was number 2, the intellectual. Let's look at number 3, experiential. Now experiential refers to an experience. This could be now sharing common activities. This could be recreation, it could be a vocational thing. By recreation it could be pastimes, hobbies, and vocational could be more of a job, something that's more career orientated. So that's number 3, experiential. Number 4, emotional intimacy. Now that is more focused on feelings, and it could even include your fears and insecurities as well as their relative opposites. So it's more of the connection of and sharing of emotions. So number 4, emotional intimacy. Number 5, spiritual intimacy. This is a sharing of something that's bigger than ourselves. It could be either a religious connotation, or it could be just to growth and contribution. But it's definitely something that goes way beyond just our physical self. We know that we're bigger than just that. Okay, so we've pretty much looked at defining intimacy, which is a shared closeness, common ground. For men, it's more towards the physical side of things. For women, it's more towards the mental and emotional and spiritual. Very generalized there, but they all have the undertones of truth and trust. If you work along with the worksheet PDF that is supplied with this course, and you'll see that first quote, you will see that a lot of commonalities to these different kinds of intimacy, that truth and trust is a common denominator to a lot of them, and that does bond, that familiarity, that closeness, that commonality, that brings us together and allows us that feeling. Right, now here's the interesting thing. I mean, we don't have to, we are multidimensional beings, we multifaceted souls, so we don't have all these, although there are different kinds of intimacy, they don't all have to be separate. So it's all about having a holistic experience. For me, when it comes to making love or for sex, even though it's just the physical part of an expression of intimacy, there is so much more you can bring to it. So there's the physical side that's covered. Now if you're looking at sex, there's an intellectual side. It's basically discovering Ask what turns that person on, what are their turn-ons, what are their turn-offs, sharing that mentally. It's an experiential intimacy as well, because you're both partaking in a similar activity. There is an emotional connotation evolved as well. There's a lot of trust there, because a lot of us often feel a little bit shame about our bodies or our body's form, you know, or how we feel about ourselves. So there's definitely an emotional sharing that goes along with that. There's the spiritual part as well. We all have how we like to express it. There's an attachment of that expression that comes from the spiritual side, or be it religious, be it spiritual, be it philosophical. There is that. So you can incorporate a lot more into this magnificent experience of intimacy that we share with our partners. And it's a very joyous thing, something we can all celebrate. So let's continue. So as we're moving forward in this course, I'd like you to be open-minded, to embrace the bigger part of you, your mind, body, and soul, and let's incorporate all of these things into our intimacy experiences, and let's put on our seatbelts and let's really enjoy this ride. It's all about self-discovery as well as your partners as well. Okay, so we've looked at the 5 kinds of intimacy. We've looked at defining it. We've looked at the different kinds. Okay, so let's look at how this evolves in a typical relationship. There's actually 5 typical stages of a relationship, and we're going to go through each one by one, so we can see typical relationship cycles and be better equipped to handle them. Let's move on. The 5 stages of a typical intimate relationship.
The Big Cigar.